Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new weekly vlog. I have not done this in so long, so I do apologise if I'm really rusty. I'm actually going to do like a mega weekly vlog, so I'm just going to combine so many little snippets of what I get up to within the next few weeks, because obviously, as you all know, we are in lockdown and not many of us have been able to actually go out and see friends and bits and pieces. So I will try my best with whatever I get up to within the next few weeks. So hopefully you will enjoy this mega weekly vlog. So I actually am just about to show you a couple of a drawing that I've been up to during yesterday and today. So I'm just about to show you that. Okay, so this is the colouring that I've been working on today and yesterday whilst I'm enjoying the sunshine. So today it is Thursday the 25th of June, and actually I can now say that tomorrow I actually go back to work, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm just excited to get back into that routine again, and I'm really looking forward to seeing my friends who I haven't seen in like 3-4 months. So I'm really looking forward to that, and hopefully with having the routine with getting back to work, I'll be able to get my sleep pattern back, because I've been, since being down in lockdown, since being in lockdown, I have really struggled with my sleep, and I keep waking up at different times, and I know the weather's been hot anyway, so it's not been really good, but yeah, I'm just really looking forward to getting back to work. But today I'm just enjoying the sunshine. I've got a phone call with my friend hopefully soon, and then I've got another one later, and so yeah, I'm just enjoying the sunshine. Also, I hope you all are nice and safe, and I'm just really looking forward to getting back to normality, whenever that will be.
Being out there, just because I feel like the difference is the energy and the fact that I'm on the same soil that this stuff has happened or is happening, and you feel it different from the people which are actually here, and yeah, you understand everything is synonymous, and although it is something which is taking place in the US, everyone shares that burden and shares that feeling in which we're feeling, which is why everyone has come together. But being out here has definitely given me a new perspective, and has been great to be a Brit out here representing and being on the front line, and just kind of being amongst the African Americans and white Americans in this protest for change. So yeah, it's been great being here. It's been an advantage, I'd say. So when it comes to picking the roles in which I take, I actually try and work backwards, right? What I mean by that is I work out where I want to be, where I want to end up as an actor. And for me, my ambition is that I want to be a leading man within Hollywood, in which is able to do, I kind of have this kind of rule for myself where I do, two for the craft and one for the people. And what I mean by that is I want to do roles and I want to do projects in which I enjoy, first and foremost, because I think it's important that whatever it is that you're doing, you enjoy and you love. And then what I mean by one for the people is that there is also an audience in which loves you or falls in love with the projects that you do, and they demand or they want something from you. And so I'll have a project in which specifically is something that I know appeases my audience. And so when I work backwards, I'm like, okay, so if I want to be a leading man within Hollywood and regarded amongst my peers as that, how do I put myself in those positions to be able to warrant that? So I at the start of my career was in a position where it was just about getting a role. It was just about getting on screen and getting a role, because if I'm not getting a role, if I don't get on screen, then I'm going to be in a position where I'm not noticed. And at the start, I would at that point say that beggars can't be choosers. And as much as you want to put yourself in a position where you want to do roles in which you love, I think you set your boundaries, right? And so everyone should have boundaries as to what they do, what they don't do, what they want to do, what they don't want to do. I have certain roles that I would just never play, because I believe that in order to convey a role, it has to be truthful and has to be honest. And there are just certain characters that I can't put my headspace in to be able to give an honest representation of that character. And so once you have your boundaries outside of that, understand where you want to be. So if you want to be a leading woman, at the top of your career, top of your industry, and you want to say a specific thing, or you have something in which you want to really put forward in terms of a message that you have as a creative, then you want to be looking at projects in which are, when you look back after 10 years, you can say, okay, all of these projects led up to, who I am and who I want people to see me as an actor, who I want casting directors to see me as. When they think about roles and they think about who could play that role, I want to be amongst that conversation. So when I look at the roles in which are that I want to do, and they're leading roles, and they're, sometimes even big blockbusters, then I put myself in a position where I'm like, okay, this blockbuster needs to put me in a position where I am a leading man. So now all the roles that I do has to be leading roles. I won't even go up for a role where I'm not a leading role, because I've now done leading roles. And so based on that, I'm in a certain bracket. And if I then do a role in which is not necessarily a leading role, it then allows a casting director or a producer to say, he might not be right for it because he's done so many roles in which are not the leading man. How can he now do a leading man when he hasn't done that before? So I think understand exactly what your do's and don'ts are and what your career trajectory will be, and understand what your boundaries are as a performer, as a creative, and then position yourself in order to put yourself in a position that does not compromise where you want to be in the future, and allow yourself to be in a position where the roles in which you are taking are part of that trajectory. And so that's kind of what I use in order to decide what roles I want to take. And that's why I think it's important to also have a side job, or, something where you're not financially dependent on just acting until you are dependent on that, because you don't want to make choices and, poison your creativity because you need the finances of that role.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot.
And someone who's a motivational speaker, and I do a lot of creative spoken word as well. And this is something in which didn't start off for me like that. What started for me was that I was actually playing football. So I was playing football at a very young age, and my brothers would play football as well. So my older brother and my younger brother were both playing football, and I thought, you know what, it's something that I'm good at. Let me try and, get into this. As a young black man, you hear football or rapping, and that's kind of like, even word to what Chucky was just saying, that's the only thing that we kind of attach ourselves to at the time. And so that's what I attached myself to, and saw that that was the way to, make money and be okay, and do something that you love. And I was in that until I got to the age of like 16, 17. And the club that I was at, so I was at Crystal Palace at one stage, and then I was trialing, and I didn't get a pro contract. I was only offered a scholarship, which would have meant that I would have had to wait 2 years and play on the scholarship in order to then get a pro, which is actually normal for most. Most don't get signed until they're 18, but I had a very high regard for myself at the time. And so I got to the place where I actually had put everything in football. Although I was acting from a very young age and just like drama schools and stuff, it wasn't something that at that time I was like, yeah, I'm going to do. But something hit me in my spirit at the time in which I was offered a scholarship instead of a pro. It just hit me, and I said, I actually don't love this. What I actually love is to act, and I want to be on screen. But it wasn't something that was spoken about really in our community. I didn't really, know or look to any actors or see actors at that stage that were like, oh, okay, that person's done it, so I can do it too. Something in my spirit just said, yeah, this is something for you. So I decided that I was going to stop everything that I was doing with football and just pursue a career of acting. And I spoke to a good friend of mine at my football club, and he said, look, you want to be an actor? If you want to be an actor, you have to go to this place. It's called the Brit School. It's like where all the famous people go. If you want to be an actor, you have to go there. I was like, what are you talking about? What's this nonsense? I ended up researching the school, found out that the school was, known for people like Adele, Amy Winehouse in music, and there were a few actors that had gone there that had some notoriety. And so I said, okay, cool, I'll go. At the time, I didn't actually know what a monologue was. And so I ended up doing my audition, and it was like a group workshop, did the group workshop. And then after that, they then said, okay, now you're going to have to do your monologue. I was like, monologue? What's a monologue? I did not prepare a monologue. And this was one of the first times where God said to me, don't worry, my son, you're all right. I got to deal with it. And I literally made up a monologue there and then in front of the two execs of the school, and just did what I thought this speech would have been from this play called Shut Up, which was about this mute, where I played the mute as a kid that didn't speak, and I did a monologue based on what he would have said if he could speak. And while I was doing this play in my school, I was like, the whole time, if this character could talk. And so that was my outlet to be able to do that. I did that. I ended up getting into the school, and after 2 years of being at the school, they then said to me, like, now is your opportunity to go to drama school, and now you should go to RADA, you go to Lambda Aura, one of the drama schools in which they recommended, and said, I had a really good chance of getting into one of those schools. And I just wasn't, something in my spirit just said, nah, I don't want to do it. I'm at a drama school. Why do I need to go to another one? I want to get out there. And I was doing theatre while I was at the school, and I said, look, I want to get in front of the screen, and I want to do some acting for television and film, and my ambition is essentially to be, Will Smith. I want to be that. That's what one of the biggest things. So I said, okay, I'm going to try and stick it out, but I didn't want to just kind of do nothing. So after those 2 years, there was a theatre company in which we built with our school, where we had a playwright come in, and they basically said, look, we're going to write you a play, and we ended up touring that. And that was only 3 days a week. So that gave me another 2 days to be able to do whatever I wanted to do. And I used that as a segue to then create my own show. So I created a show online called Man Them on the Wall, which was about Jamaican patois for 3 guys who just sat on a wall, and it was a sitcom. And what we wanted to do was create a show which could go onto YouTube and then have an opportunity to be seen by TV networks to create a TV show. And I actually ended up, I from a very young age, I was installed with a lot of self-belief from my parents. And so I always knew that whatever it is that I wanted to do, I could do. I was always told that. I was always told my path is clear, and I was always told that whatever direction I go, I'm going to end up where I'm supposed to be. And so I had that confidence and I had that faith to kind of take that moment. And after creating this show, before I even created the show, I created a documentary to say, look, this show that I'm going to create is going to be out on YouTube. At the time, I look back and I think, who did I think I was, kind of, saying all this, but I knew who I was. And I was Joivan Wade. I was a young man who had vision and essentially knew in my heart what, God had for me. And I created this show, put it online, and overnight it had 100,000 views, and it went viral. And this was 2011, so nearly 10 years ago now, and that was around the London riots, the Brixton riots that took place because of the police brutality with Mark Duggan. And what we did was we used the traffic and the sourcing of what people were searching on YouTube with London riots at that time, created this first episode about the London riots, knowing that we would then take traffic, and that's how we had our video go viral. After 4 episodes, we had 500,000 views across 3 episodes. And after 6 months, we were contacted by a production company called Big Talk to say, look, we've got this new TV show that we're starting out, and we want to take your characters because you've already got an audience and people love you guys, and the demographic we're trying to hit is your audience. So can we take this and make it a part? So they said, yeah, okay, cool. We did that. And we had a TV show. So everything that we kind of professed from the beginning was starting to come to fruition. We did 2 series of the TV show. And then I realized that this format of creating and proving yourself and your own opportunities and saying, look, I'm not going to wait for anyone to kind of hand it to me, was something that I felt like the rest of the industry was doing. And if there was just people that just didn't have that same mindset but maybe had that creativity or that skill, where were they? These companies weren't going to come out and find them. So off the back of that, I launched a platform for comedy, which is called the Wall of Comedy, and that was to try and work with different comedians, basically do that very same thing, give them my audience, work with them to create a format, put it online to a ready-made audience that would then amass them views, and then take it to a TV network or a production company and say, look, this thing is working, don't say that it's niche. And we constantly had this backlash of it's niche, people don't care about Black stories, etc. But then if Finding Nemo has so many views, if people can relate to Black people, and we basically just kept pushing that narrative, and eventually that platform then built. 2 years later, we grew it to 6 million followers. We were producing around 100 million views a month, working with different creators. After about 3.5 years, we had then become the most successful comedy platform in Europe. We were amassing 500 million views a month, and we were building. I had 25 employees at the time, with a minimum salary of 22K, a year, and it was a lot of responsibility. At the time, I was at that point 21, and I had a company. I had an office in Old Street in London, and I had 25 employees, and that was the kind of first knack for me, and the first time where I actually felt like I ended up I wasn't pleasing God, to be honest, and I felt that came from the fact that I created this platform, and we then became a part of a beta program that Facebook were testing. So now we have this thing called Facebook Watch, and before Facebook were even doing video content, we were a part, one of two channels in the UK represented to take this on board and try and work out this beta program. We did that, and we were grossing, because of our high view count, we went from 10, 15, 20k to sometimes 50, 60, 70 grand a month. And we started building this company, and because of the amount of money which was coming in, and I wanted to keep building the company, in all honesty, just kind of lost track of exactly what I felt God gave me this platform for. And unfortunately, it got to the point where it kind of got from underneath myself and my business partner, and a lot of the content in which we were putting out there just wasn't the content in which I felt like God gave me the platform to use. And it was a lot of stuff that we knew would go viral, or things that people were latching onto. And long story short, came a time where this platform basically was just taken under us. Facebook decided that some of the content, so we had some of the content in which we had licensed, but when other bigger players would come in, they would then license the content that we had already licensed, therefore making our license redundant. Facebook then saw that although it wasn't our fault, they ended up taking our page away. We lost 10 million followers. We lost everything, basically, all of our revenue and everything that I had built my life on at that period. I was able to then, get that back and just kind of took it as, all right, I get it. The reason why I feel like this has happened to me is because God has given me something. And I always say, God only funds his ideas. And the reason why I feel like I've been gathered this level of success this far is because I've always taken what God's given me and done and implemented. And purpose is a very big part of who I am. And at that stage of my life, I felt like I wasn't doing what he had given me that tool for. And I say God only funds his ideas, in the same way that as an investor, I'm not going to fund something that I don't believe in. And if God doesn't believe in that and it's not purpose, then things can be taken from underneath you, and you just don't have that unlimited supply of just resource and favor. And so that was taken. Long story short, didn't allow that to kind of knock me, and built back the company to the point where we had different revenue, different source, and it took us about 2 years, but now back to just under 30 employees, and back to where we were, and revenue and everything is exceeding. So during that time, my biggest, I would say, encounter, I've grown up in church, and my dad was a pastor. My uncles also pastored churches and had a gospel group called the Wades, in which toured around Europe and even America. And so I was always given that kind of spiritual background, and but I never really had my own relationship, I would say, and just kind of relied on what my mum and my dad had told me. And I got to a point when I was about 18, maybe about 17, and I kind of said, if I grew up, I hadn't at that point had any personal experience or any spiritual experience or anything with God. And I said to myself, if I was born into a Muslim family, or I was born into a Sikh family, or any other religion, would I be that religion, or would I follow that faith? And I kind of said, well, yeah, because I would have done what my mum and dad told me, and I haven't had any personal experience, so I'm only going off what I've been told. And so at that point, I kind of stepped back and said, this isn't something that I know for, and still kept my relationship, but was kind of stopped reaching out, stopped praying, stopped going to church, stopped everything. And then I got to the point where I decided that I wanted to try and go to America and crack America. So while that was kind of my entrepreneurship and that journey. And then outside of that, I was acting in various TV shows. I had done Doctor Who, EastEnders, and done a lot of stuff in the UK that I felt like I wanted to take to the next level. And taking that to the next level meant going to the US, because I believe that if you want to be amongst it, go to where everything is happening and where the most opportunity is. And I felt like that for me was Hollywood. And so 2016, I upped and said, okay, I want to go to Hollywood. And it's funny enough, it's always been in my heart, because when I was a kid, I even have on my Twitter, location Los Angeles. I always knew that I was going to end up here and that this was where I was. And funnily enough, that was even before I started acting. So while I was playing football, I don't know why, but something in my spirit just kept saying LA. So 2016, I upped and came here on the first trip, and it was like a holiday. Me and my friends came, but for me, I wanted to use it as an opportunity. I knew what I was doing in the back of my mind, finding a manager and try and get out here. After 2 weeks of being out here, I went back, and as soon as I got back home, my spirit just shifted. It just felt like I'm not meant to be here in London. And so I basically called my manager back and said, look, I want to go back. And I booked another flight that the day I got back, and 2 weeks later, I went again. And I stayed out there for 3 weeks that time. And at that point, I had, in my mind, it was like, I want to, as a young black boy, you become a footballer, or if you're an actor, it was like, I'd love to play a superhero. And that was a big burden on my heart. And so when I was taking all these meetings, the first meeting that I had was with a management company called Atlas Atlas Management. And Atlas Entertainment, the production company, are known for, Wonder Woman, Superman, all of the DC superhero films in which you've seen. They were the first meeting that I took, and my spirit said, yes, these are the guys that I should be with. But I had 10 other meetings. So when I got out of that meeting, I rang my agent in the UK and said, I don't want to do this other, meeting. I want to just kind of sign with these guys. And I was advised, no, take all the other meetings. I took 2 other meetings, and then my spirit just said, nah, these are the guys. Went with those guys. And a year later, I basically went back to London. I was in London for 6 months. And during this time, I'm still in the place where I'm like, Lord, I still don't know what's up. And I actually then went through an experience where I had booked an audition or self-tape for The Purge. And The Purge is it's a big blockbuster franchise in the US. And I did this self-tape, and I didn't hear anything back for about 3 months. Long story short, I had ended up then going back to LA, and coincidentally, 2 weeks before I went back, my manager called me and said that they've seen your tape for The Purge and they really want to get you over. Coincidentally, I was flying over, and so I went over there. The day after I landed, I went into the room, did an audition in person, and off the back of that, they basically loved me, and I got on the phone with the director. He offered me the role, and I had this whole thing where I had done the hard part, which was booking my first ever Hollywood blockbuster, but I didn't have a visa. And so I couldn't work. The film was shooting in 2.5 weeks' time. And I basically had 2 weeks to get my visa. And that was if it was expedited. And so during this time, you can imagine, for a young actor who's just kind of, got his first huge break, and knowing that something like a visa could stop me from essentially being able to do that, all your trust goes into God and the universe to say, if this is meant to happen, then let it happen, please. And I did just that. And I went for a real journey where I kind of cocooned myself and just found myself talking to God every day. It's funny that, when you need something, we always turn to God and turn to the universe and ask for help. And that's what I was doing at that time. And I felt like, that experience that I went through, I ended up getting, I had like a day, I think it was. So it was around 10 a.m. in LA, which meant it was 6 p.m. in London. And I had up until the end of the day in LA to get all of my papers. So when you get a visa, you have to get all these letters of recommendation. And I needed all of the industry experts to give me this letter. But I had about 3 hours before everyone went to bed in London. And I had about 8 hours of my day in the US to get this all done and submitted, because my management told casting that I already had the paperwork sorted. So we ended up basically, I don't know how, it was a miracle. God was on my side, and everyone I reached out to, from like big players and, Doctor Who producers, David Williams, Matt Lucas, and Lenny Henry, and, people that I had worked with, allowed me to work and get to that point. And so I basically managed to get my visa in to the scruff of the neck. I woke up one morning and just said, look, this is going to happen. I packed my bags. My brother was leaving LA at the time, and I essentially just took and went. And I had packed my bag before I was leaving to go to drop my brother to the airport, and got to the point where literally maybe an hour before I was supposed to get my get told that I couldn't do it, I got a call to say, look, we need to get you on the next flight to Canada, because somehow Congress has got involved, and Universal have allowed your visa to go through the system without it even being in the system. So I have to go to Canada, sign up my do my paperwork, but I can't even get my visa because I'm not even in the system. And when I even got there, the guy would basically said to me, well, they brought me around the back. Everyone looked at me like, who is this guy? This is weird. And they gave me some document, and it was literally a miracle. There was no way that the US government was going to allow me into the country or to get this visa without even being in the system. I had Congress, Adam Schiff's office, write a letter to say, this kid, when he comes in, just let him do his thing. And I didn't even have a visa for the first 2 weeks that I was working the job, and it all worked out. It was crazy, and so that was my my first experience where I kind of just left everything in God's hands and just said, look, if this is meant to be, let it be. And I've had very similar experiences since that point, and I've got to the place where everything I do now, like the role I'm playing now, which is Cyborg in DC, is all about that experience. And now coming here, I know that my time is pretty much up. I just want to share this with you because I was in a position where this new role, I actually turned it down 3 times because my company was at a place where I didn't feel like I could leave, and I ended up leaving.
Hello everyone, so today it is Monday the 29th of June. Now I was supposed to carry on this mega weekly vlog for the next few weeks, but it is already up to like 26 minutes, so I only have like 4 minutes to sort of like end it because YouTube and the movie maker is such a pain when and it takes forever to upload when you have like over an hour or half an hour footage. So actually I do want to keep this vlog nice and short, so you can all enjoy it. And I just want to quickly say that the events that happened online, so for example the We Shine and the Creativity Meets Spirituality, and also the Joivan's mentor session, and I really loved them all. It was great to just hear from other people what they had to say. I learned a few things actually, so that was really good. And each month Joivan puts on like a mentor session, and I think at one point you get to have like a one-to-one session, so that's quite good. And I actually really enjoyed being able to see him on screen and just see other people, like meet other people, like what they had to say. And yeah, so that was good, and I'm looking forward to having more of those sessions and other events that will be hopefully happening soon, like online. If any more events will happen, I can then just join in. So also I want to quickly say that I am now back at work. So I have now become on furlough, and I'm now back onto my contract hours. And actually I was back at work on Friday and Saturday, and it was so good just to see my staff members. I've missed them all, and yeah, it was really good just to get back into that routine again and walking to work and getting the bus as well, because also the weather's been a bit horrible. So yeah, it was really good actually going back to work, and it was a bit daunting at first, but I got the hang of it after a while. So, and I do have work actually this week coming up, so I have it, what was it, Thursday, Friday and Sunday. So yeah, I'm really glad to be going back to work actually, and I really shouldn't be as excited because everyone else is at home and it's obviously not fair, but yeah, I think hopefully everyone should slowly go back to work as soon as they can, but for now we'll just have to see. But yeah, I'm just really glad to be one of them and be able to go back to work. And I do work in retail, so now that a few of the shops are open, obviously that means that the people who work in retail can go back to work. And I am now going to end this vlog. So if you do like it, give this video a thumbs up if you did like it. Don't forget to subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you all very, very soon. I don't know when I'm next going to film, but hopefully it won't be that long. So thanks for watching. Love you all, and I'll see you all very, very soon. So bye.